Welcome to the Bob Tuskin Show. I'm your host, Bob Tuskin. Got a lot planned for you. It's Friday, so that means the second hour for tonight's show, we will be joined by Scott Bug per usual. Scott's talking about Earth changes and all the good stuff that he normally chats about with us, and he'll be joining us again, second hour of the program. For the first hour, we're going to have Popeye hanging out from federaljack.com and your phone calls at 866-841-1065. Now, what's going on in the world today? What in the world is happening? Well, we'll talk about that at some point, but here's an interesting thing that I want to share with you in this first short segment. Snoop Dogg is getting on board with some of the conspiracy theories. He's got this YouTube video out now, I don't know where it came from, where he starts off talking about vaccinations, saying, oh, vaccines? Don't get those. Those are for fools. That's right, Snoop Dogg is the new voice of reason amongst so many other credible people. We have to turn to Snoop Dogg for the truth nowadays. It's amazing. You never know who's going to be susceptible to the truth and receptive towards the truth. So it's really cool that Snoop Dogg's jumped on board with certain topics. Like I said, he starts off this video saying, forget the vaccines, I don't trust them, and they're putting something in there. And then he goes on to talk about the U.S. government's involvement with placing drugs in communities, a la Iran-Contras and all the other phony operations to smuggle drugs in this fake war on drugs. Here's what he had to say, and I'm going to pause it about halfway through, because, you know, Snoop Dogg's now, he likes to curse a little bit, so we got to watch that for the FCC censors. But here we go. Here's Snoop Dogg on the U.S. government's involvement with placing drugs in communities. Snoop Dogg 101 Conspiracy Theory on the Bob Tuskin Show.
I believe that the government did put crack in the ghettos in the communities, because I was one who sold crack and dibbled and dabbled around with it, and it just fell out the sky. It wasn't just like it was something that just we grew it or we, knew how to make it from scratch. It was given to us. And when it was given to us, we passed it on to our homies. If it was an older homie who knew how to do it, he passed it down to a couple of his homies. And it was just a situation where we never stopped to think, like, why is it here and how did it even get here? But
why is it there and how did it even get there? That's a good question. And why are crack laws so much more extreme compared to the powder stuff that the rich and elite love to use? Snoop goes on to say that the whole thing's a scam and he doesn't buy it. A good one, Snoop Dogg. We'll have to get him on the show. That would be a cool person to have on, perhaps. You gotta smoke a lot of cannabis for that show, though. I mean, those that know Snoop Dogg's style, he's a big fan of cannabis and the hemp movement. By the way, I'm going to be speaking at the Hemp Festival here locally, so come check that out if you're in the North Central Florida area. I'm going to be giving a talk about 9/11 and so many other different topics that you might not expect to be discussed at a hemp festival. So that should be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to the Gainesville Hemp Festival. It's a major festival, and it's world known for the doobie toss. Check that out if you can. I'll post a video of it on YouTube, though, so don't worry. All right, folks, quick break, and then we'll be joined by Popeye from federaljack.com and your phone calls, 866-841-1065. All righty, folks. Welcome back to the Bob Tuskin Show. I'm your host, Bob Tuskin. That's kind of weird, Popeye, when I say, welcome to the Bob Tuskin Show. I'm your host, Bob Tuskin. Yeah, no kidding.
I guess you could look up the term redundant in the dictionary and see you given the peace sign? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, it's right next to the other photo that I got in the dictionary, which is under Jewfro.
And you do have one, Bob.
Do I?
Oh, yes.
How do we know that's not a wig, like the Jeff Rents?
Oh, I know it's real. I've seen it in person.
Oh, yeah?
Do you think Rents wears a wig?
No, I don't know that he does. But he's been accused of it. People say, well, how do we know he's not wearing a wig?
Well, I guess you could just walk over and try to pull his hair off, and if it doesn't come off, it's not a wig.
All right, so this is a challenge for our listeners. If you see Jeff Rents, please let us know. Send me an email.
Why do I see this going somewhere bad?
All right, Popeye. Have you actually tried to pull my hair?
Actually, I think I did the first time just to make sure it was real. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
You could see it's completely real. Bob is 100%. I guess you can consider yourself to be a what do you call him? Rasta.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he really does walk the walk. So when he talks about like eating all herbal foods and all that stuff, and he lives by how he speaks. So yeah, and I know Bob personally. That's why I can say that.
Yeah,
so,
and
yes.
I live to speak. And trust me, if you ask my parents or anybody who's slept around me, I talk in my sleep a lot.
What do you talk about, Bob?
I have no idea. I don't know how I can possibly keep talking. I mean, do all talk show hosts talk in their sleep? Popeye, do you talk in your sleep?
My wife says I do.
So you're
laying there like, welcome to the Bob Tuskin Radio Show.
Yeah, I'm a Bob Tuskin Radio Show.
You crack me up, man.
So what's there to talk about today?
There's plenty of things to get angry about, but I don't want to get angry today. I want to be mellow and relaxed.
You got a special coming up with Mark Passio, huh?
Yes, sir. I do have a special coming up with Mark Passio tonight. It's all about Satanism and everything else. And Jimmy X over at Orion, where my show is hosted at, was courteous enough to give me a commercial-free broadcast tonight, except for one couple-minute break at the top of the hour. So it's awesome. Everything's lined up. Commercial-free broadcast. Almost 2 full hours of Mark Passio and myself discussing Satanism and getting really deep into it and trying to explain to people why it's important that they understand this. And Mark has somewhat of an insider's view. That's why he would, in my opinion, be the best person to come on and talk about it. And the full length, it was like 2.5 hours long, so not all of it will play on the air. The full length version will be up at my YouTube channel. The answer to 1984 is, and people can go listen to it whenever. That's where the archive will be up in about 3 or 4 hours.
The answer to 1984 is your YouTube channel. That's what it is.
Yep. Not just mine, though. I mean, I don't like to try to say that I'm the only person on YouTube. I am a prominent YouTuber, I guess you could say, but there are
prominent that they've taken so many of your channels down.
Yeah, I'm on number 6 now. Plus, my full length channel isn't considered in that. That would be number. In all total, I've had, this makes 9 channels, including the full length. No, I'm sorry, 10 channels, including the full length one.
Yeah.
So 9, not including it, and I only have 3 of them that are active because all the other ones got shut off. But it's okay to show videos of some schmuck riding a bicycle off his roof of his garage like 100 million times, because that's awesome. You know, that's what they want you to pay attention to, Bob. They don't want you to see 9/11 Truth or Ron Paul videos.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. Who's Ron Paul? Oh, that's right, the guy the media ignores.
Are you a big Ron Paul guy, Popeye?
I wouldn't say I'm a big Ron Paul guy.
You know, because there's those types out there that are Ron Paul, and you'll see them on Facebook, and that's all they post. Ron Paul, Ron Paul, Ron Paul. Are you one of those guys?
No. I would vote for him, and I do agree with a lot of the things he says. And I think that if you want to put faith in the system of voting and everything else, and if we want a chance of trying to do things without a bloody revolution, I think that it's imperative that maybe we give him a chance, and we give all these other losers a chance, right? Everybody just blindly, I mean, not that voting really matters, but it kind of does, because they can only switch the votes if they're really close. So if you can make it like a landslide victory, they can't switch it. So maybe we still have a chance of getting him in, and see, let's see if he does what he says he's going to do. And the only way to make sure that they don't take him out is to make Ventura the vice president, because then they'll never want to take Ron Paul out, because they wouldn't want Ventura to be in charge.
Well, Ventura would kick their ass.
Well, because he's a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, he's a pro wrestler.
Where's Steve Stars when you need a good Jesse Ventura?
Yeah, right. I'm sure we'll have Steve call in. Hey, if you'd like to call in, 866-841-1065. Join us. We'd like to hear from you. What's on your mind? Do you think Ron Paul is the end all? 866-841-1065 is the toll-free number to join us on tonight's Bob Tuskin show. Let's see, what else, Popeye? How about the Mets?
How did I know you were going to say that?
How about the Mets?
Well, I used to be a Mets fan, but I wouldn't go anywhere near New York City anymore because it's such a that island itself is a little police state. So they become like a prison island. It really has.
Yeah.
And it's not just because of the protesters. I mean, it's just ridiculous the amount of laws and the amount of ways they violate your constitutional rights. They have stop and frisk policies where if they think you look suspicious, they just stop you and frisk you. What's the next? Where's your papers? I mean, off the camp you go because you're so and so. That's right down the street. You know what I mean? That's not that far away if you're allowing that kind of stuff to go on and not getting angry about it. That kind of stuff should irritate some people.
TSA soft terror checkpoints.
Oh, yeah, because just what I want to do is be driving down the street and have some $6.50 an hour loser try to stick his hand down my pants or my wife's pants. I'm going to tell you what, that stuff won't fly in the dirty South. There's a lot of states that people have a lot more freedoms, and I'm sure that there's, in the South, somebody's not going to put up with that, dude. Someone's going to try to at least physically whoop someone. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to push it to that point where they can get everybody on edge, and then they snap, and then boom, they bring in martial law because now they have their quote-unquote excuse. Remember, order out of chaos. First they create the solution, then they create the problem, then they offer the solution.
Sure, the Hegelian dialectic. When we come back, Popeye, we're going to head over to Greece. And the Greeks, if you haven't heard, they're abandoning their cash reserve, and resorting to bartering. So we'll talk about that in the next segment on tonight's Bob Tuskin show. And your phone calls, 866-841-1065. End of Fed. End of Fed. End of Fed. End of Fed. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is what socialism looks like.
I'm sorry, Bob. I have to take my headset off. You just made me nauseous with recanting that. Oh, God.
Those are the two ends of the spectrum there.
I can't stand it. This is what the democracy looks like. That's the one that made me ill.
Looks like, Poppy.
Yeah, that's the one that made me. But you Spanish now?
Yeah, Poppy. Hey, Poppy. Anyway, so what does democracy look like in Greece with their financial crisis? Well, they've started to resort to bartering. Check this out, Popeye, and we'll get your comments in just a moment.
For a country where cash is now in short supply, time has taken on a whole different value.
In the Time Bank, we exchange voluntary services. Sometimes I give painting lessons for free, but I take yoga for free also. Somebody else is teaching yoga.
The Time Bank's just one
nice.
of a growing number of service-swapping alternatives that are providing people in Greece another way to cope with the tough economic conditions. Services can include anything from language classes to babysitting or home-cooked meals.
It's huge. It's huge. Everything we do without money, like looking after people or making things by ourselves.
For a country in crisis, building social unity can prove extremely hard.
Crisis is a terrible thing. It creates fear. It divides people from public sector workers from private sector workers. It divides richer workers to poorer workers, immigrant workers from home workers, and that's a terrible thing.
But the barter networks have been a great way of bringing together large groups of people. A popular slogan here in Greece now is "No one's alone in the crisis." Organisations are arranging swap shops to exchange clothes. One town in Greece has even started its own barter currency.
We still have the memory of agricultural society in Greece, where people used to do things together, like they would do the olive trees of my family this week, and then next week we'll do the olive trees of your family, and then the next week of the other neighbor. So they would exchange services, and they like that.
Nikki gives me and her friend Alexandra, who's also a member of the Time Bank, an art lesson. It's one of the free services she provides. And in exchange, Alexandra helps out with the gardening, and so the time is repaid.
It's an amazing way of receiving, finally, by giving to the others.
As many Greeks struggle with wage cuts, tax increases, and with unemployment in the country now cripplingly high, there's been huge interest in the time banks and barter networks. With places in Aladdin's cave of arts and materials, there's no wonder really that this idea of swapping goods and services has proven so popular. It's building solidarity at a time when the economic situation is extremely uncertain. Whilst these barter networks won't solve Greece's financial problems, they do provide a massive amount of support for participants.
It's not a response to the economic crisis in the sense that it's going to overturn the government, but it's giving support and comfort to those who would like to overturn the terrible economic policies that are being imposed by the Troika. It's giving people support to feel that they can do something.
With the tough economic times leaving many Greeks feeling worthless, there is real value in projects like the Time Bank. With the Greek government drowning in debt, these creative solutions are offering not only support, but encouragement to the people here, which at a time of deep recession,
it's important.
Priceless.
You know, the morale is important. I love this story, Popeye. I don't know if I'm just a crazy, naive socialist who thinks that we're all going to just hold hands and barter once everything collapses to the ground like it's on the brink of doing. But I kind of like it. It makes sense to me to say, well, hey, let me help you with your garden. And then you say, Popeye, well, in return, let me teach you a little bit of an art lesson. You know, that kind of thing. I think it's great. I don't know. What are your thoughts? 866-841-1065. Is that the way to go? You know, working with our communities, bartering, trading, that kind of thing. Do you think that's a threat to the powers that shouldn't be, or something that's not going to get us anywhere? Popeye, what are your thoughts? Is that a solution? Is that a positive direction, positive step?
Well, Greece, really, their government hasn't given their citizens any other options but to do that. And that's how this whole monetary system started back in the day here anyway. And the Indians used to use shells and stuff, and they called it wampum. You know, it's not really, it doesn't really matter if it's printed paper or gold or whatever. It's you, whatever you give value becomes valuable. So if, like, people that collect comic books, for instance, the only reason why certain comic books are worth like $80,000-$90,000 is because somebody, somewhere in the world, wants that comic book, and there's only a certain amount of that comic to be had. Get it? You have to have scarcity, and you have to have somebody that you have to have a need for it. You know, basic supply and demand. So that's where it's really simple. You boil it right down to that.
Yeah. Well, when that scarcity becomes less and less a part of the system of distribution, it makes it harder and harder for people to control others through that system. You know, it makes it harder to keep a grasp on the useless eaters.
Well, they want to get rid of us. That's the end goal, right? You have to understand the whole game, including the final solution. Not to rip anything off of from the Nazis, but that is the end game, right? The end game is to eventually, through food or money or oil, energy, law, they want to control everything. Every aspect, from the time you come out of your mother's womb until the time you go into the ground. We are nothing more to them Now, we are very much more than this, ladies and gentlemen. We are so much more. Just many of you don't know it. Most of you listening to the radio show are very enlightened individuals anyway. So, but for the new listeners and stuff that are just tuning into this, you are more than what they think of us. But they think of us as nothing more than a product.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what Social Security and the birth certificate tie in together. It makes us a product. And we're bought and sold on the stock exchange.
You know that old series, The Prisoner?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, number 6. What's the famous line? I'm not a number.
Yeah, exactly.
I am not a number. Let me look up that clip, because I mean that says it all right there. Okay, and in that series, if you have not watched it, excuse my squeaky chair there. That series is a definite must-watch for anybody who wants to get a picture of what the power structure looks like and how Big Brother our world is today, I guess. No, that's not what I wanted to say. How Big Brother-like, I guess, is what I wanted to say. Our world is, let's see, number. I'm multitasking here.
Well, it's turning into the Big Brother world. Why do you think that show is called Big Brother, Bob? The quote-unquote reality show where there's cameras all over the house watching everything you do, including the bathrooms. The whole point of that television program is to program
they call it
the normalcy of it. Yes, it's to program the normalcy of being watched in the bathroom while you take a leak or take a shower or do anything else all over your life, being on camera.
I am not a number. I don't think I loaded the clip in time before the break. But when we get back, we'll continue this discussion. Don't go anywhere. It's the Bob Tuskin Show.
Where am I? In the village. What do you want? Information. Whose side are you on? That would be telling. We want information. 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 You won't get it. By hook or by crook, we will. Who are you? The new number 2. Who is number 1? You are number 6. I am not a number. I am a free man.
And welcome back to the Bob Tuskin Show. I'm your host, Bob Tuskin. And we have Popeye with us from FederalJack.com and your phone calls at 866-841-1065. Let's go to the phone lines. We have Beverly from South Carolina on the line. Beverly, how are you tonight?
I'm fine. Thank you, Bob.
So what's up?
I guess I'm going to try to control my hillbilly speech, I reckon, but I'm sorry. That's just the way I speak.
No. It's funny because Popeye is saying you should have your own show. So I said, yeah, or I was saying that. And he said, yeah, it should be the Beverly Show. And then I was thinking that Beverly Hillbillies is the show. And you do have that nice southern accent, but nobody's complaining, Beverly. Don't worry.
Well, I can't help it, and that's just the way it is. You were talking about bartering earlier. Do you realize that down in Hilton Head, South Carolina, if y'all know where that is, that's a very hotty-toddy resort-type area down in South Carolina. Do you know where that is, Bob?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay, well, you know how somewhat exclusive it is. And if you're a regular person like you and me and everybody else, it's quite expensive to try to live there. They have had a bartering system that has gone on down in Hilton Head for years amongst the locals. They barter their services, be it haircuts or different things that they do. And this goes on in a small circle of locals down there, and the tourist folks have never known anything about it or anything like that.
So the tourists use the Federal Reserve notes, and the locals, they barter amongst each other.
They do barter amongst each other, and they have done this for years in Hilton Head. I have several friends that live in Hilton Head, have lived there for years, and do fairly well there, you know, with their businesses, because it's a lot of tourism, you see. So your business, if you're a beautician, well, I'm speaking specifically about a friend of mine who is a beautician down there, and her work is a little bit hit and miss. She's got a small clientele, but amongst the local people there, they do barter amongst themselves for their services. You know, she trades haircuts for, say, she might need a little electrical work done on her house or something like that. So people, we're not completely stupid, even though we think a lot of people are just plumb dumb. But people are going to figure out a way to survive, and they're going to figure out a way to make it. Now, there are going to be those people that, you know, are going to get in the line, and they're going to go and just follow along with whichever hand, you know, butters up their bread. That's the way they're going to go. But, you know, that kind of stuff has been going on.
You know, the people that end up committing suicide during these collapses, they're the people that are the wealthy bankers or on Wall Street and whatnot, not the people who are self-sufficient and bartering already. I mean, that's just a fact. So, Beverly, I think you got it exactly right. The powers that shouldn't be, they're afraid of that, and that's why they go after these sorts of initiatives. Let's take a look at Waco. One of the things that they don't mention about Waco is that they were self-sufficient. They were sovereign.
Oh, yeah. They don't want you to be. They want you to be dependent totally on them, like a nanny state, you know. Oh, well, you can't survive without me. Well, you know, that's kind of BS because, you know, you can survive without them, and you can survive very well. And, you know, people struggle in all different sections of life or whatever, but do you know anybody who is truly just absolutely not making it? Just not making it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Survival of the fittest.
Well, if you know somebody like that, and you're just, you know what I mean, like they have a group of people that knows that person, and that whole group of people just lets that person fall flat in their face and doesn't help them, that's sick and disgusting. We're supposed to take care of one another. If there's 10 of us and we see one person having a bad time, help the person out. At least send them in the right direction, you know? Like, you don't have to give him the fish, but teach him how to fish.
Popeye. All I care about is Bob Tuskin. I have a website named after me. I got awesome hair. Who cares about anybody else? We should all be crazy egotists that only fend for ourselves. Screw anybody else, even our family members. Family's overrated, let me tell you.
Family, schmamly. Well, you know, the thing about it, you know, we were just speaking about that last night when we were talking about community, and Popeye's exactly right. And that's what it comes down to, is caring about your fellow man, caring about the people in your community, the people in your area, looking out, you know, trying to help as many people as you can, and being a friend, you know, be a friend, help someone out if you can.
Yeah, that's Freeman's new movement, the Friendship Agenda. That's exactly right. All right, well, Beverly, thanks as always for calling. You take care.
You too. Y'all have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, let's go to Tim in Wisconsin. Tim, what's on your mind?
Even though, it does sound like battering would be a threat to the powers that shouldn't be, as you put it, by even what you two talked about with the last caller. Still, when it comes to, you know, hearing, I think it was De Novo, you know, that was, you know, I'm telling about how we need to, you know, get out of the system, you know, do it, you know, what we can to, to get out of the system, and also, and also the stuff that Karen Testato also has always said, we need to. We also need to, get. I think bartering's a good way to, for everyone to get out of this system. When for sure, what would come to, for sure when the economy's for sure, to where it's not going to be any good to, to try to do any business or have any business with money. Then I think bartering is also a way that sounds good to also
I mean, you can still use bartering to control people, and tell me if I'm getting your point here, Tim. You can still use bartering to control people by controlling scarcity and controlling resources, and it may not be pieces of paper, as in the case of the Federal Reserve, which oftentimes it's not even paper with them; it's just zeros in a computer. But it's still a means of control in a way, or could be used in that way. Is that what you're getting at, Tim?
It'd be one good way to stop to help stop this corrupt system. If we have everybody, for sure when the economy's for sure, no good. I know it's not good now, but when it's for sure no good, then that would be one good way of helping to stop their corrupt system. Like Karen Testato talks about.
Don't buy, don't comply, and ask why. That's what it's all about. Hey, Tim, I see the break coming up. Thank you very much for your call. I think those sorts of initiatives will put an end to this crooked system. We got one more segment with Popeye from FederalJack.com. And you're not going to want to miss that. He's got Mark Passio coming on his show. And then next hour, we got Scott from the Believers Underground. Scott Bugg, ladies and gentlemen. Talk about earth changes, the Federal Reserve, and so much more. You're not going to want to miss it. It's the Bob Tuskin Show. We'll be right back in just a second. Halloween's coming up, ladies and gentlemen. So the Bob Tuskin Show, in honor of Halloween, this segment is going to get spooky. We're going to talk about ghosts. We're going to talk about mummies. We're going to talk about all the child molesting scumbags that run the banks and create the wars. Muhahaha. And now joining me is the ghost hunter of the year, Popeye from FederalJack.com.
Ghost hunter of the year. I don't know about that.
Who are you going to call? Popeye from Fed Jack.
I'm not really going ghost hunting. I'm tagging along with a paranormal investigation team at a real haunted estate. It's huge. They do weddings and stuff there, but it's got an Indian burial ground and stuff in the back. For you, the people that don't know, that's why I did a special broadcast with Mark Passio tonight, because what Bob and I are talking about is tonight I will be from 11 o'clock till about 4 o'clock in the morning. I'll be running around a haunted estate.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Check out Popeye at the Haunted Estate tonight on the Orion Talk Radio Network.
Something strange in the neighborhood. Who you gonna call?
This is kind of a gay version.
That's the original.
I'm just joking. I thought I was on the Celtic Rebel for a second. Sorry. All right. That does it for the Bob Tuskin Ghostbusters Halloween special.
Yeah, and just so the listeners know, I will not be doing a live show from there. I'll be talking about it, at a later date. No, that's why I did a special broadcast because originally Mark was going to come on tonight, but then this opportunity came up. So Mark was gracious enough to do the interview a few days early. And because of that, that's why Jimmy was really cool, and we got rid of all the commercials. So it's going to be an even longer than normal broadcast. And it's Mark and I got in deep in about Satanism and the occult and these people's mindset and understanding the enemy.
6 feet under.
Yep.
Interesting. All right. Well, folks, call us up with your ghost stories. I want to hear your spooky ghost stories. We're taking all your calls about the paranormal. 866-841-1065. This is Coast to Coast. I'm your host, Bob Bell.
Bob Norrie.
Bob Norrie. No, that's too funny. I'm not anti-ghost and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? I'm not anti. I just, that's not something we talk about often on the show. We got a call the other night. We thought it was a little crazy at first, but turns out the call was completely legitimate. Talking about the red, lights in the sky. Did you hear that, Popeye?
No. And was it real?
Yeah, the auroras were going out of control.
Well, that's all that solar radiation.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not worry about that. Let's worry about terrorists in the closet.
Or maybe it was pole shifting. We'll have to ask Scott Bug about that next hour.
That's a good question because something's going on. I'm not saying that there's some comet that's going to hit the planet, but obviously solar flares are real. That stuff, the
sun is out of control, man.
Well, maybe it's angry. I don't know.
Maybe it's pissed off.
It's got indigestion, whatever. It's active. I mean, it's the sun. But let's not take that into account when we talk about global warming. Cows farting and man are making the planet heat up, Bob. It's got nothing to do with that huge ball of fire in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Don't pay attention to that, though. Al Gore wants you to look at polar bears that are swimming. Look, they're drowning because they can't find land. So people know polar bears swim routinely out over 100 miles into the ocean. They spend 2/3 of their life in the water.
Mm-hmm.
They are the most aquatic bear there is. That's their habitat. They've been found and seen and photographed by fishermen over 100 miles out to sea in search of food. So no, they're not looking for some Arctic ice sheet.
Well, I never knew I had Martians in my garden. And I never knew there were aliens on my roof. I got shadow people, and they're living in my basement. Got a funny feeling Bigfoot's gonna be here soon. I was so blind before, I was so unaware. But now I swear I'm seeing Sasquatch over there.
That's not Sasquatch, that's just Bob Tuskin with his Jufro.
And I heard things I need to know.
In the middle of the night.
And I also see a ghost. 'Cause I'm listening to Coast to Coast.
All right. I had to.
Oh my God! I was wondering what that was, and then at the end I hear it, and I was like, ugh.
They actually used to play that at the end of every show. I don't know that they still do.
You know what? I can deal, I have to say, when I was a truck driver, when I was younger for years, at night, George Norrie, that was the only thing that I could stomach after hours.
I've been listening
to
Coast, Popeye, since I was 10 years old. Okay, and I'm in my mid-20s now. So
you remember when Art Bell was on back in the 90s?
I used to listen to Art Bell. I was completely upset when George Norrie came on at first, until I realized that his direction that he went was a little bit more, let's just say, conscious, more oriented to the things we talk about on the show, which I thought was kind of cool. But it makes you wonder.
It does make you wonder. But I think, Art had connections to the CIA, and, I don't know, I got mixed feelings about George Norrie. I mean, he covers things like he'll have Ventura on once in a while, he'll have AJ on once in a while, but he doesn't have, I think you've been on once or twice, but that's because you were able to call in about a certain topic. You know, they would
I've
never
called in a few times,
but they would never have you on as a 2-hour guest.
Well,
you know, to talk about real stuff. That's what, I'm not saying just you, anybody. They wouldn't get down into what I don't like is they don't really get down into the trenches with the people that are out there doing stuff, or they do talk about the Bilderberg group, but then after they do, maybe 1 or 2 shows on the Bilderberg group or the CFR or something like that, the next 2 weeks are all about aliens and common Elenin and all this other stuff. And I'm not saying aliens don't exist, but they do that.
By the way, Chris Gio is going to be
purpose.
the new host. He's taking Ian Punnet's place on the weekends. So check for that, folks. That should be cool. Chris Gio, Coast to Coast. You're listening to Truth Frequency Radio, east of on the top of the Rockies in an undisclosed location.
I guess you could actually say that.
By the way, Chris knows I'm joking, and we love him. He said, I could use this. Could you imagine, though, reaching that many people? That's got to be cool. You know? Well,
see, that's the thing. They do get some stuff out, but that's why I get irritated with them, because they have the ability to do, like, okay, using Chris and Cherie as a perfect example, those guys, they talk about, not only do they talk about, the Anunnaki and all that stuff, but they also discuss what's going on with everything else. They
do a good job. I'm not trying to discredit.
Oh, no, I know you're not, but I'm saying they're actually a good example, like, of what Coast to Coast should at least
all right,
try.
Hold on a second, Popeye. Let's talk about this in just a second.
Today, at least back in the 30s, after the Rothschilds, Warburgs, and Rockefellers robbed the American economy, many of us had some understanding of the unsavory characters who had gained control of the banking system. Today, they have totally infiltrated your media, academia, your Congress, and have left not a trace of the truth to be told. That's why I'm so glad I can tune into the Bob Tuskin Radio Show. The Bob Tuskin Radio Show.
All right, Popeye. So the bottom line with what were we talking about? Coast to Coast and that sort of shifting of the focus. There's so many different things that dilute some of the core issues. They talk about health. They talk about a lot of important things. So what I think people should do and take away from all that, Popeye, is think for themselves. That's one of the reasons why I attribute Coast to Coast to, having made me such a, not alone, but it allowed me to be open-minded and consider something without accepting it nor discounting it. Anyways, Popeye, thank you very much for coming on. FederalJack.com, of course, his website. And check out his show next hour, not this next hour, but the hour after that on Orion.